As we stood there in the quiet, the intensity of the moment hung between us like an invisible thread, stretching but never breaking. The world around us seemed to hold its breath. No sound came from the distant city streets. The trees stood motionless, as if the night itself didn't dare to interrupt the moment that had just passed between us. I reached up slowly, tracing my fingers over my lips, still tingling with the sensation of his kiss. My touch was soft, almost reverent, as if I could capture that final bit of warmth and hold it a little longer. There was something about this kiss, this one kiss, that felt like nothing I'd ever known before. I'd kissed before, many times, but this was different. This felt like the kind of kiss that changes you. His eyes, still locked with mine, held a mix of vulnerability and longing. I could feel his breath, shallow and uneven, the warmth of it against the cool night air. His presence was like a magnetic force, pulling me toward him again, even though neither of us had moved. It wasn't just the kiss, it was everything. How the night wrapped around us, how the stars shimmered, silent witnesses to this intimate collision of hearts. We were still in that place, suspended between reality and something far more ethereal. I couldn't name it, but I knew we weren't in the ordinary world anymore. My mind buzzed, a whirlwind of emotions and thoughts racing through me, struggling to make sense of what had just happened. Had we crossed some invisible threshold, a line that neither of us knew existed until we were on the other side? I felt exposed, vulnerable in a way I had never expected. He had reached into the deepest part of me, touched something raw, something fragile that I hadn't even known was there. And that scared me, but at the same time, it excited me. There was no easy way to explain it, no simple way to describe how it felt, how every fiber of my being seemed to hum with the memory of his lips on mine. The stars above us, twinkling like diamonds against the velvet night, seemed to tremble, as though they too had felt the impact of our kiss. It was as if the universe itself had leaned in, just for a moment, to listen, to witness, and in doing so had blessed us with a moment of timeless beauty. I didn't know what to say. How do you put words to something like this? How do you capture the essence of something so profound, so deeply felt, when language itself seems inadequate? I glanced up at him again, my heart still racing. He hadn't spoken either, but his eyes told me everything I needed to know. There was a softness there, a vulnerability that matched my own. For a moment, I wondered if he felt the same way I did, if the kiss had shaken him the way it had shaken me. It felt like we had both tumbled into a world where time didn't exist, where everything was made of stardust and the weight of the universe was pressing down on us, not crushing, but connecting. It was as if we had been drawn together by forces beyond our understanding, beyond reason or logic. He took a small step closer, his hand reaching out again, hesitating for just a second before he cupped my cheek. His thumb traced the line of my jaw, soft, as though he was memorizing the feel of my skin. I closed my eyes at the touch, leaning into it, my heart fluttering in my chest. He started, his voice barely more than a whisper, but the words never came. Instead, he leaned in again, his lips brushing against mine in the lightest of kisses. A ghost of a kiss, just enough to send a shiver down my spine. I felt it all over again, that pull, that connection. It was intoxicating, overwhelming, like we were standing on the edge of a precipice, ready to fall, but not yet willing to let go. I knew in that moment that I would never forget this. No matter what happened next, this would stay with me, etched into my memory, like a tattoo on my soul. The night stretched on, endless and quiet. We stood in the same spot for what felt like hours, neither of us willing to break the spell. But eventually, reality began to creep back in, little by little. The soft rustling of the wind through the leaves, the distant hum of traffic, it all started to seep into our private universe, reminding us that time hadn't actually stopped. Not really. I took a step back, my hand falling away from his chest, though it took every ounce of willpower I had to do so. His eyes followed mine, searching, as if he was afraid I would disappear or he'd let me go. "What just happened?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with the weight of everything we had just experienced. He smiled, a small, almost shy smile that made my heart flutter again. "I don't know," he admitted, his voice low and husky. "But I don't want it to end."